So, hello, Valerie. Thank you for joining me to talk about some of your work and in regard to St. Barnabas. And earlier this afternoon, I talked to John Mayer about the history of St. Barnabas and about its impact in the community since its foundation in 1869. And I'm very aware that you have lived here across the road from the church for 41 years, did you say?
Yeah, 41 years.
And have you seen the neighbourhood and the church change?
Ooh. With regard to the church, interestingly, I think the main difference for me, because I live right opposite, is the door is now open. I mean, literally, in more ways than one. And for me, and I feel for many others, it had always felt rather closed, and therefore a little bit unavailable. And certainly events went on, and as you know, we started up with art weeks and things like that with a deliberate effort, really, from your predecessor, Father Jonathan, to have the church open more for the community. So that's made a difference for sure. With regard to the community in general, I'm not really sure. I just find it's still wonderfully diverse community here, with some of the real original Jericho people still very much in evidence, people that were born and bred in the same house that they still live in.
Isn't it?
And obviously the newcomers and the students and everybody else.
Yes, I mean, it's a very transient community in some ways, but yet amidst that transience with students and academics, there is this sort of real sense of history and long-term residence here, which makes such a unique and wonderful community.
Absolutely.
You have painted the church in many different views, and I find it really inspirational to see some of your work. We're going to start with the kind of what is now quite a famous image, really, that you painted of these lovely little geese. And we named this The Ones That Got Away at Christmas. And we used it as a Christmas card, and it was really successful. Lots of people bought it. And you've kind of painted the church and painted Oxford and Jericho and Port Meadow, especially, as we'll see later, throughout the seasons. You really captured the seasons, haven't you?
Well, in a way, I think Port Meadow, as much as anywhere where you've got a lot of space and water that comes and goes and sky, you're really going to be very aware of the seasons, actually.
Yes. This is obviously winter, Christmas, and this was painted before Castle Mill Apartments were built, isn't that right?
That's right. I think it's about 2010, if I remember rightly.
Wow. Yes. And here's some of your study of the geese, that you capture their characters so well. They're such interesting creatures, aren't they?
No, I think they are, actually. Yeah, I think they really are. Yeah.
And this is another winter scene.
Yeah.
Now you can see not only St. Barnabas, but you can see all of the dreaming spires of Oxford.
Yeah.
Now this looks to me as if it's Port Meadow slightly flooded. Is that right?
No, it's just the position. So I'm standing on the meadow side, almost opposite where the perch is, I think.
Oh, yes, of course.
Where, but no, I don't think that's flooded there.
But
the river just is very wide at that point.
Yeah, it's beautiful, light, winter light. And this one, the next one that I only discovered from you ago, is this from Willow Walk, isn't that right?
Willow Walk, that's right. I think most people know where that is. As you leave the little car park, instead of going right across the meadow, you take that little route through a gate. and down. That's actually Castle Mill Stream down there, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, I just love the light in front of St Barnabas there. I mean, it's just so mystical and so captivating. It looks as if it's early in the morning, but it's a very much a winter light, a Christmassy
It
light.
is, isn't it? Yes.
Almost the sun not quite rising at all.
No, that's right. You never really know what you're going to see till you go out there. I used to be more diligent than I am now and go out early mornings when I knew there'd be a lot of mist around and magic, really, on the meadow.
And do you find it magical to paint? Or is it more magical to imagine painting?
Oh. Oh no, I think to paint, when you really settle into a piece of work. I mean, I have to be honest and say something like this. I did not sit out there and paint it. But even so, if you work on something at home and you really somehow tune into the quality of that moment, it seems to then start to come through your work, actually.
Yes.
So it definitely has a sort of magic.
Now, this is another lovely magic one. This is moving more into spring, in fact, I think.
Yes, it probably is, because that's as recently it's when we get the most of the flooding, actually.
Yes, it's sort of February time, is it?
Yeah. And that's taken down from right by the Trout pub, where at the end of there, as you go towards the meadow, they've got a sort of I think it's St Edward's School, actually, boatyard with lovely views from there.
You can just see St Barnabas here.
You can again. That's before the buildings went up.
So you've captured a view that no longer exists.
Yes.
Do you remember painting this one?
I do. Now, I don't know how much detail you want to go into this, but some people here might remember, I think his name was Peter Corlett, who's died some years ago.
Yes.
But he was a great devotee of St Barnabas Church. Do you know of him?
Yes, he was chair of the school governors, in fact.
Oh, well, he commissioned this.
Oh, did he? Wow.
And not so long afterwards, he died.
Yes.
But, I'm hesitating now, I'm getting bad with names. Mrs. Bale, Mark Bale's mother, took this on. She did a lot of charitable work at Sobel House.
Yes.
And she and I, between us, did this as a big limited edition print and really raised a lot of money for Sobel House.
Wonderful.
And which was it just went like hotcakes, this picture.
Is there some print still available of it?
No, they just went. I've forgotten whether it's 50 or 100 now, but.
No, yes, Peter dedicated a window at the school, in fact, or left money for which the window was left in his memory, and it's got pictures of stained glass window.
Oh, how lovely!
Barnabas is at the school.
Oh, it was Jane Bale. I'd forgotten her first name. Mark's mother, who obviously knew Peter Corlett well.
Very special painting, this then, in many ways. And now this is a photograph that you gave me. This is from the top of St Barnabas Tower.
Yes.
And that's obviously Port Meadow.
Yes.
Now, did you take that picture, do you think?
I did, and I have sorted out the dates of this. It's when scaffolding went up on the tower for virtually 2 years, between 96 and 98. Gosh. And inevitably, I got a little bit friendly with the builders who they were plastering the whole of the tower, weren't they?
Yes.
Proper lime plaster, traditional lime plaster. And so they let me go up there. And I took these amazing pictures from all around in every direction.
That's really fantastic. Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I suppose you can do all this with drones now, but you couldn't then.
Not quite the same quality, though. This is an old fashion camera, I imagine, a proper print.
It's certainly from a print, yeah. I wasn't, yes, it's pre my computer days, yes.
Now this is one of yours, and in fact, I think,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, this was turned into a postcard.
Yes, now there are two very similar.
Ah,
And I have a feel, I can't remember now whether this is, I don't think this is your church postcard one. I think I looked this up. Oh dear, I can't remember her name. It was painted as a leaving gift for a headmistress at school,
ah,
early 2000s.
Jane Thomas?
No.
No,
Well,
predecessor of Jane, maybe.
um,
Mm.
I could run off and look it up because I've got
No,
it written
it's
down
okay.
somewhere.
Someone who's watching will remember. Well, I bring this up because but when I was appointed here 2 years ago, in fact, almost exactly to the day, 28th of February, I was installed here. And before I arrived in Oxford, I got this lovely postcard from Maggie Ellis, which was a postcard with your
Yeah,
work on the front of it.
yeah.
And I just had this hugely warm feeling when I got that postcard that this was a community I really wanted to get to know. And of course, then you're the artist. And I wondered at that point, who is the artist that did this? I wonder, does she live near the church? I wonder, will I meet her? And look.
Well, we're a bit sorry it doesn't look quite as pretty as the picture now, aren't we?
Yes, of course. I mean,
Dear
yes,
me.
it's not
Yeah.
quite the same now at the moment, is it?
No, no.
Was this your imagination, or was this a real?
No, 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 not at all.
This was
And you can
actually
see that that's the boatyards working there because you can
yes,
see one up higher, up on the
yeah.
dry dock. Yeah.
And there's the vicarage as well. Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And then another very well, certainly known picture that I associate with you is you can see the bookbinders in there too,
Yes.
and that really captivates another aspect of St Barnabas
Yeah.
from the Canal Street end.
I'm pleased to say, actually, that was another one that was done purely for fundraising for the church.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, as a very nice edition print.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is one, just a little selection of different
Yes.
sort of lozenges of work. So you've got then
Yeah.
there's the old school there, and the church, and
Yeah.
the St Paul's, of course, which is now Freud's,
Of course.
and then the bookbinders. Is that bookbinders there?
That's yes.
And the canal.
Isis Lockbridge,
Isis
that
Lock.
is. And dear old Auto Works that many will remember there on Canal Street.
Yes, and that's the observatory in the top right.
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. And do they all come from separate paintings, or did you paint that as one painting?
No, that's painted as one. That was actually a commission for somebody local here.
Yes. And this beautiful spring one. Now we're moving into really spring and summer now, and in terms of the colours, and this was painted for one of my predecessors, I presume.
It was. Isn't this interesting? The ones that I want to say to the public, I didn't actually know what you had chosen to show, so I find this quite interesting. Yeah, that was for Father Michael Wright.
Oh, was it his leaving gift?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, where is this from?
Well, it's from Worcester College. You can't see that. You can't see that view at all now. I mean, trees are all very lovely, but if they're just all left, they obscure these views.
Gosh, yes. At the lake at Worcester, from the Provost Lodge
Yes.
direction, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. And then there's this one, which I have really fallen in love with, and this is purely of the church.
Yeah.
From the other side of the canal.
Yeah.
And this is oil, is it, or watercolor?
No, it's just a sort of sepia paint, sepia ink, really.
Sepia ink, yes.
Yes.
Was that a commission, or did you just decide to do that?
No, I need to check. I think it might be one of a great long series that some people will remember I used to do for limited edition magazine that came out every month with the Oxford Times.
Ah, okay.
I mean, wonderful. It's just sad, isn't it, what happens to newspapers, really.
Yes.
They had such a lovely magazine.
Gosh.
And the editor, for this went on for years. We chose different subjects that we would follow through for a while, like unusual places, churches,
Yes.
all over Oxfordshire, actually. And I'm pretty sure I did that for that. I can check and see if you're interested.
And it's very beautiful and very accurate and detailed drawing of the church.
Yes, it does show a different side from, well, we can't see that at all now, can we? Because of all the hoarding and...
No. Maybe one day it'll be opened up again and we'll see it. Now, you mentioned Art Weeks earlier on. This is an image of a photograph of Art Weeks at St Barnabas.
Yes.
And yes, I hope we can get Art Weeks back this year, but I don't know if the pandemic will allow that.
No, I have to say it's too late anyway to register for this year. But no, this is where, because so you wouldn't even have seen all the church like this, would you?
No, I haven't experienced it.
Oh, this whole corner of the Lady Chapel, 10 potters as they're called, a wonderful group, took it over for quite a number of years and displayed. 10 of them had their display all round that corner or side. It was just wonderful.
And here's a wall of your paintings, I assume.
Oh dear, right. Yeah. And
do you see Art Weeks coming back next year, 2022?
It's actually on this year.
It is on this year?
Yes. It's I've actually attended these hours on Zoom today, which is all about the admin for it. And they're hoping that that we'd be able to open our homes for it, which is what I've registered for this year, because it wasn't really going to be practical to do it in the church this year.
No.
And it's a toss-up whether they feel, if things are going as according to the law at the moment, that we should be able to open our homes if they're COVID secure.
Last year it was all virtual, wasn't it? Art Weeks was fairly virtual.
Yes. Well, they're making it both this year. Yeah. Now, you may not have met this lovely lady, Gillian Shakespeare.
No, I've not met her.
No, they lived a few doors along from you in St Barnabas Street. And she was a well-known illustrator. And she got really carried away with her work, and that was lovely in Art Weeks in the church.
Well, I hope to see it next year. Now, this is a lovely one of a Van Gogh style, I think you've called it.
This is my brief Van Gogh period.
Again, I don't recognise some of this because it predates me, because the auto workshop's not there, but you've told me that where it is exactly. So
yes.
But the colours in this are very vibrant.
Yes. Well, it was really done partly as a colour exercise, really. I actually copied a Van Gogh painting when I thought my paintings were getting a bit dull. And then straight afterwards did this.
So what makes you change either medium, whether it's watercolor, oils, or style? What is it? Just a sort of inspiration that you get?
I think it's a mixture of feeling a need for change, which I think we all do that, because you get kind of mechanical and dull and boring if you kind of keep repeating the same stuff all the time. So it's partly that, and different medium just allow you to see things differently. I mean, the extreme difference is, even as you pointed out, having a monochrome picture compared to something with bright color like this.
Yes.
But then when you use bright colors like this, you really have got to sort out what sits happily next to which one and how much of each one in the picture. Otherwise it goes towards garish.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is dreamlike, or the colors are just so mesmerizing, I think. And of course, there's still some prints of this left on your website.
Yes, they are being sold, as you know, totally
Yes.
to raise funds for the church.
Yes, for the organ, I think.
So they're very much available.
This is a picture, a photograph, which again I presume you took because you sent it to me.
Yes.
From the other side of the canal, and this shows, of course, the scaffolding.
Yes.
From which you took the photograph of Port Meadow.
Yes.
So I mean, this is a fascinating picture for me to see of the scaffolding up there. And I can see it at the west end of the church as well.
Yes, they did.
And again, you've captured a moment of history that
yes.
perhaps
yes.
been forgotten.
So that was between 96 and 98.
96 and 98.
Yeah.
And that's when you said that the church tower was being re-limestoned, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's lime. What's it called? It's lime plaster rather than the usual one now, which was gypsum or something or other.
Yes.
Because lime plaster is traditional.
Yes.
And very difficult to use. It's what you use in fresco painting as well.
And this is a picture which I don't think you took.
I didn't.
This is an aerial picture from a plane or a helicopter.
It's, I don't know. If I remember rightly, I did put the date on that. That's come off. I wrote it 2007.
2007.
That is. So look, I can't understand that the boatyard's empty there.
Yes. It's pretty much as it is now, really.
Oh, well, that's just after the eviction, which was 2006.
Okay.
I think I have to admit this was actually sold. I've got it as a very nice colour photograph. And I think something like the Oxford Times sold them.
I see.
So I'm probably reproducing it illegally.
This is one of my favourites because this is, I think, from School Court, potentially, because it shows the church tower emerging from the Institute building, which I talked about earlier. And it kind of shows ancient and modern, or Victorian and modern in some ways, because these flats are more modern here. So.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a lot about the neighbourhood, the outside, the tower, but we haven't talked about the inside of the church. And here's a lovely photograph of the inside of the church. And this was taken actually by at my institution by the photographer who came. And the light has been captured very well, I think.
Amazing, isn't it?
And I think you and I have talked a lot about the apse, the dome apse, and the Christ in Majesty. And I've actually written a little piece for the Jericho Matters magazine, which is coming out around Easter time.
Good.
With a copy of this photograph, and I've explained a little bit about what I see when I look at that picture of Jesus in Majesty. It's in some ways a very old-fashioned patriarchal image of God. I mean, it's not showing God the Father, it's showing Jesus as king, as priest. But he's sitting on a rainbow, and his feet are firmly in the water of the sea, and he's sitting solidly in a space that's turning, and the apse gives a huge movement. If you're standing underneath it, you get a bit dizzy because it's like one of those time-lapse camera views of stars at night, and it's just the blue and the gold are extraordinarily striking, I think. You've not painted the inside of the church or anything?
I have one, but I wasn't going to show it to you.
I
I'm glad to say it is not available here. It's really, it went into it was a commission, but to me it went into the too difficult department.
Well, Matthew Rice has drawn it. He doesn't paint so much as draws views of the inside, and he kind of I don't know the style that he uses, but it's very creative style. So he,
Yeah.
not an accurate depiction, but nonetheless captures the
Yeah.
entirety of the
Absolutely.
of the beauty
Yeah.
of the style of the
Yes.
inside.
Yeah.
And I suppose painting a scene, painting a sort of Port Meadow and spires from Port Meadow is very different from painting the inside of a building with detail, isn't it? It's a very different approach.
It is. Now I've done more, I have to say, in my past. But I have painted places like the inside of the Divinity School. Have you been in there?
I have, yes.
I mean, which is unbelievably complex architecturally. But there was something that I did not find that difficult. I've always seemed to have found architecture fairly not a great challenge for me.
Yes.
To draw, and I loved doing that. That was in the days when they just gave me permission to go and sit in there all day. But the interior of St Barnabas, it's a bit like it's not like it, but it's related to the chapel in Worcester College, which is also the one other picture I declined to try and paint because they're so complex.
Yes.
That I think they're best left as they are. You can't add to it.
Yes.
And it's very hard to capture atmosphere. Because I think in a way an artist is obviously, and I think I include myself, although you're painting things and forms, what you're really drawn to is actually sort of atmosphere, really.
Yes.
And I think very particularly in my case, light.
Yes.
And so when the subject matter is so complex, you just get a bit lost.
Well, there's so much that we haven't yet shown. I mean, I've only shown a very small snippet of the vast quantity of things that you've painted, both detailed architectural paintings of, for example, I think the Radcliffe Camera in Oxford. You've done that, and other very detailed buildings. But you've also done lots of scenes which capture the light in different aspects and different points in the day. You've stopped painting for a while. Have you started again, or have you still a retreat from painting?
No, I'm not in retreat. I'm not quite sure where I'm going. I'm doing now. I've got quite motivated by things, but quite differently. I've actually did a little bit of sculpting of the human figure last year, and already for almost 2 months I've been doing an online oil portrait painting course, which I've found marvelous. And I've got really, again, if you get the right teacher who gives you a system, you're away, really. It's and this is what this bright young man has done. And I'm just loving painting portraits, which I never thought in my life I would do, really.
Fantastic.
So it feels a bit like an open book at the moment, really.
It's wonderful.
We'll wait and see what's in it.
Valerie, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been, as always, talking to you, such an inspiration, and to sort of delve into your work as well. And thank you for all that you have done for the community in terms of captivating the atmosphere.
Thank you.
Thank you.